of my brand.
It is what it is.
And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of FreudenFreude, where we bring you content to help you grow and develop as a person and as a leader.
Hi, I'm Sandra Corona,
And I am Claudia, and we
and we are
are coaches.
coaches. So much better.
Well, the enthusiasm is there, people. Okay, go ahead, Sandra.
Well, I am a coach for leaders who works with expatriates, corporations, HR, global mobility service, and their departments.
Okay, fantastic. And I am a coach working with corporate leaders, entrepreneurs, as well as their teams in tech and beyond. So, today's topic, dealing with age and declining abilities. In our discussion that Sandra and I had, we realized that there's so much to talk about when it comes to that, and it can be a real can of worms, obviously. So we are just going to try our best. Today, I must admit, I'm very under the weather, so you guys just have to bear with me that I'm not at my smartest today. But let's see if we can get, nevertheless, an interesting discussion going for you guys. And again,
Perfect.
anything later on to contribute or insights to share, please let us know in the comments anytime. So,
Right.
Sandra, welcome. We
Same to you.
kind of a controversial topic or a tricky one. What were the things that kind of prompted you to agree to this topic?
Well, I think after a certain age, reaching the age that I am about to reach, which is the big 50, um, it kind of reminds me about the things that I was able to do, right? When you're young, when you are uh, when you're full of life and you have no responsibilities, which is the key word here, right? Let's put that in parentheses because the fact that I can no longer do the things that I could do when I was young, in my perspective, now that I've been talking it with Claudia and discussing it and all this stuff, it kind of made me think, well, what if people are still as capable with a slight, let's say, gap of time um, than they used to be able to if their life was the same than it was 20, 30 years ago. Okay, meaning that if now that I'm 50, if my life conditions were the same than when I was 27, 30 years old, 25, I would probably still be able to hold my own weight and do the things that I need to do if I was working in a corporation, if I was working, as a consultant, doing the same things just because I don't have responsibilities. Let's keep in mind that men and women have so many things that they have in mind once they get married, because now comes the mortgage, the house, the keeping up the house, the social life, the new friends, the family to visit, the vacations to plan, the children, and so they start accumulating, right? And all these things. Whereas before, all of those things used to be used for fun,
Right.
for going on
So,
vacation with friends.
right. So
Right?
the backpack of responsibilities you have to carry is weighing you down much more than this hyper light, efficient little backpack you had back in the day. Yeah,
Right.
there's some truth to that. Also, add to that indeed, if we're over 50, um, our body is not the same. I mean, it is a fact that, certain things just don't function the same way that they did than they did before, right? So, case in point, pulling an all-nighter, right?
I
I
don't know
mean,
what you're talking about.
yes, yes, yes. I mean, staying up until 5 a.m., having a good time and then still being able to function the next day, and how we did back in the day, going to classes and things like that, now would be really hard. Would be
Oh yeah,
really hard.
yeah.
That has nothing to do with the weight of responsibilities backpack, okay? I don't think so. I think that our body functions differently. And there was actually one point that I wanted to make here, is that um, our body has kind of a prime. And after a certain age, you're not in that prime anymore, that physical prime that you're maybe in your late 20s, in your early 30s, some people into their 40s. It can be a very long prime, but at least for me personally, and in the people that I know, we realize that after 50, it's going down a little bit. And
Mm,
everybody's different. Okay, we're generalizing here to make certain points. We are not judging any individual person here. We're stereotyping for a reason in this case. Um, and but I think it's interesting to see that the cognitive prime is independent of that. I really believe that. Even though you might not be able to work as many hours in the day as you go older and older and older, but I think that the quality of the output that you can create based on the wisdom of your years and your experience and the accumulated knowledge of a lifetime, should not be discounted. I really think that you don't need to be in your physical prime to do intellectually prime work,
right.
right? And look at Professor Clutterbuck. He's a master coach, master team coach, a brilliant, brilliant person. He's 75, and he still writes books. He still mentors people. He does outstanding teaching and mentoring work, and so you cannot say that he's past his intellectual prime. He's in it, absolutely. And I think that should in a certain sense give hope to a lot of people, that it there's even if you can't stay up all night, then you don't stay up all night, but you still continuing on, because I
Yeah,
really think that is important.
right, right. You know what I think of when you're saying, the physical versus the mental ability that happens, after a certain age, and the difference between one another. It makes me think about a personal experience I'd like to share. Um, when I moved here to Saudi Arabia 9 years ago, I was actually a very active person. And, I would walk and we would go to the park and we would do things, but I wasn't an athlete. Okay. I was an athlete when I was younger. And incredibly, when I look at these uh, commercials for Peloton and all these other exercise things, I could see how I used to, as a child, be able to do a lot of those movements. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how athletic I was. But talking about, how you acquire responsibilities, things change. And then you age, you become a little lady, you become a woman. And so your interests change. The point here is that my interest had to change, not because I chose them, but because there was a change of lifestyle. So, I was not active. I was going into depression mode because things were a little bit difficult. You have to adjust, there's a time for adjustment. And I realized that my body was starting to hurt. And I would watch the commercial. There's a commercial for Zoloft, I think that's the medication, that would say, when you're depressed, depression hurts. I was like, oh my God, depression hurts and your body hurts. And it resonated with me. And I was like, am I depressed? Is it that? Well, besides because I was in a different country, yes, of course, I was depressed because I didn't have my friends, my family, and so on and so on. I I'm working on that. I am actually going to the doctor, and I'm doing what I have to do for my well-being. So that's number one. But then what happened with my body? What is about my body? What am I doing for my body? And that medication that I started taking helped me to feel like I had to do something. I had to move. I had to do things for me.
Got a
And
bit
it took me to
of
the
that
gym.
spark back to
Yes, I
that
got it
connection.
back.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And it made me also change even my perspective as a coach. You think your perspectives, you are aligned and you got it. But no, your mood is also a determining factor for how you see things and how you feel. And I mean, I didn't understand it when I would hear it, but it just made sense. So
Yes.
yeah, I'm moving more and it makes me feel good. So overall, that is my personal experience. So if you are feeling that that is your situation, go and seek help.
Right, right. I mean, because things can get out of whack, and a lot of our listeners probably spent the better part of the last decades sitting in an office for hours a day. That's not
Yep.
necessarily conducive to, springing back up after all those hours and being hugely active unless you focus on that. And
Mm-hmm.
and even if, and I think it's more important even so, as your body has this natural tendency of letting go. I saw in my dad that he's going to turn 85 in just a little bit, but he always used to take a little bit of a break over the winter because the garden is asleep, there's nothing to be done. His grapes are already cut and tied, and all the stuff is just in winter rest. And then when
Mm-hmm.
the spring comes, he could all of a sudden jump out of this recliner and go into the garden and do all this heavy work with the machinery and weeding and clipping this and that. And he was able to do it. But now it's not really, this bounce back is not really there as much anymore. And he realized it himself and does much more like going for walks in the winter and things like that, even if he doesn't necessarily lift anything or do the more traditional gym exercising. He's not that kind of a person, but at least he moves. He forces himself to move, because I think once we get too stagnant, it's very tricky to get into this movement bit, and that's on the physical side. But also, I think all of us, especially when we reach this 50 mark, women go into menopause, a lot of men start going into andropause. There's this, your hormones change, your body does change. It's a
Mm-hmm.
biological thing, it's not a willpower thing. And with
Mm-hmm.
that do also come adjustments. And so, sometimes medication might need to be required to
Mm-hmm.
bridge that. I mean, some women take hormone replacement if that works for them. All the better. Others can't tolerate it that well. This is not a discussion about that. But there's, it just there is just stuff happening. Okay. From a coaching perspective, I think this brings a lot of really big challenges with them. And I think as we coach people, we see them of all kinds and flavors, how they deal with this, and how they see the rest of their life, how they see the way that they are showing themselves and existing in the world, their self-concept. It can change, and sometimes it changed dramatically. To mention the stereotype here is the typical male midlife crisis driving the the red sports car kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yep.
just because that is a mental thing, that is a belief thing, that a way of proving to themselves more than others, in my opinion, that they still have this youth, that they still have this drive and the success and all those kind of things. So and we do see them, we see the people who end up with the big sports car and the trophy wife sometimes, right? And women too. I mean, women might maybe even go to things like plastic surgery or whatever to show that they're still dressed like a 20-year-old. Sometimes they actually dress like more young in their late 40s and 50s than they actually did when they were that age, right?
Okay, so we can say that with age also comes the loss of perspective. So, okay, perfect. Good. I like that.
Just because you fit into a size 8 doesn't mean you are a size 8. Okay, so but
Uh-huh. Yeah,
that's
there you go.
but so it's very much about self concept, and with self concept also come all the assumptions and expectations that you set onto yourself. And we see all kind of flavors of that, right? I mean, you have some that like myself, and actually like Sandra, like you, who start a business and see the business still operating in 15, 20 years. Of course, why not, right? There's no
Mm-hmm.
end to it. And
Mm-hmm.
then on the flip side of that, you have people that count the days to early retirement,
Mm-hmm.
because then they can stop doing this work that they're doing, that they're not really invested in anymore, even though at some point they were. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's so much that happens in different ways that people deal with this change.
Right, right. And so there's 2 points that you're bringing in. One of them is bouncing back. In my perspective, there's no such thing as bouncing back, because once you experience a change in your body, any mass that experiences a change is is no longer the same. It will, let's say a ball, okay, a ball is new and you take it out of the package, and then as soon as you throw it in the first try, I'm sorry, it already has suffered a change, right? It has bounced, it has done this, and then it comes back and it becomes again the same figure, but it has already experienced a change. So imagine a body, a human that has experienced trauma, that has experienced sicknesses, that one of the things that we were talking about was, let me make a pause here, is conditions and affections. No, I'm sorry, not affections. Conditions that used to be life threatening. And now, thank God, well, thank goodness, because of technology and science that has improved, some of them are no longer considered to be life changing, meaning that in the workplace, they no longer have to worry if they're going through menopause, the right medication is going to help them. If you are experiencing Alzheimer, you might need to, slow down in your job and stuff like that. But it's no longer something that's going to prohibit you from doing your job. Like you said, there's a decline, physical decline, and there's a mental decline. So, and then you also talked about right now at the end about what is that you were saying? I'm sorry. I got too busy talking about the yeah, sorry. See, mental decline.
That's
Clear
it,
example.
like
Wow.
there you go. There you
Dear
go.
Lord.
Exactly. Well, okay, just it comes back to you later, so just continue
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
train of
okay.
thought.
So I wanted to
Change.
talk about yeah, the change that your body goes through. For example, there's a movie that I was telling Claudia about that was called The Surrogates with Bruce Willis. And Bruce Willis, in that time, it's futuristic, right? Humans are no longer going to work, but instead they have a surrogate that is a better version of them, that is presenting themselves at the office and doing the job and having a social life and so on and so on, while the real person is at home in bedridden, just like a parasite, doing nothing. Okay, absolutely nothing. They're like asleep.
Oh,
And
that's
what they're doing, it's terrible. But yet when you look at them, they're still aging. Nothing has changed. Aging does not stop. They're not their best version, right? Their surrogate version. And at the end, spoiler alert for those of you that haven't seen it, the surrogates are no longer needed. They start getting rid of them. They start dying like surrogates do. And now it's time for the humans to step in. Well, guess what? The humans, just as they are, now they have to present themselves to society. They're no longer able to be their best version, but instead they function. I think what they're trying to say is what I've heard and seen so many times, which is work gives you a sense of purpose. Work gives you something to wake up for every single day, something that makes you feel good about yourself, that you are productive. Okay. I know that this for a lot of people is like, huh? But think about it. There's a reason why we go to work. We need to do this. Otherwise, our bodies and our brains just, they're not there anymore. And a lot of people start dying out of depression. I mean, just look at the retirees that I was telling you earlier. How many retirees die months or just a couple, like 2, 3, 5 years after they've retired, they die because they are no longer in service.
Right. Because I really do think that the sense of contribution, however the person defines it, the satisfaction that you get from doing something meaningful, the sense of purpose is
Mm-hmm,
really what drives a quality of life. A lot of people
mm-hmm,
might think, no, I'm just working for the money. Uh, Nevertheless, and that's okay. That's a valid thing. But I think what a driving engine is of what propels people forward very often is this thing that gives life meaning. And
mm-hmm.
for some people, it might be amassing money that might give their life meaning, and then
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's all good. The thing is that as I was contemplating this, it made me realize that a lot of these issues actually come with this transition into retirement, and
Mm-hmm,
this kind of societally fixed retirement age.
mm-hmm,
Because it's like there was the before when you were able to work and you were in your prime and you were able to contribute in a meaningful way or a societally meaningful way. And then there's the after
mm-hmm,
and whatever you do with it. And
mm-hmm.
I wonder, how does this would actually be if we didn't have a sanctioned law, a
A
thing
need.
defined by law that you have to retire by a certain age. Because I really think that it forces a lot of people into this retirement where
Mm-hmm,
they no longer find their footing in terms
mm-hmm,
of giving contribution. And
mm-hmm,
quite a number of people, especially if they have not mentally or logistically prepared for a life after retirement, they feel like they're set out to pasture, and there's nothing happening and they're not able to give back. Especially then also people who are not grandparents, who can maybe, get some fulfillment or contribution by caring for the grandchildren or whatever. People that might be less physically fit, so they can't travel and things like that, right? So
Yep.
I think that there's a big danger there about this label also being put on people, that now you're not like before. Now
Yeah.
you're not contributing like before, and it's a really big thing. Then we have, on the flip side, beautiful examples of people whose real life starts after retirement. I
Hmm.
mean, like truly, they are no longer tied down, maybe through the requirements of a job, and can truly live out their passion, contribute in other meaningful ways to society, to their community, or just find fulfillment in things that are for themselves. I remember very vividly a gentleman that I know who is an excellent pianist, but to pay the bills, he was an engineer in his working life. Once he was able to retire from his engineering job and get his pension, he was now able to, rededicate himself to his true love in a pretty much
Right.
full-time position, because all through his working life, so many hours of the day, he wasn't able to be at the piano and living his musician life, right? Because he was
Hmm.
down by the job, that now it just opened for him his ability to true what he really does, and it keeps him young. It keeps him engaged.
Hmm.
It keeps him young. It keeps him wanting to get up in the morning and doing something he's truly passionate about. And so in terms of resilience, there is this what goes on in our own heads about how we view this transition and how we view ourselves and our own expectations as we go through this change. And let's just assume, and it is like that, it is going to change. There is going to be a change when
Right.
you exit the uh, work life as it was in your young age into
Right.
something else. However, nowadays we all know that there's people switch jobs all the time now anyway. People even
Mm.
go into parallel careers. It's not this, I work for one company my entire life and I start as an engineer and I'm going to end up as an engineer, so
Hmm.
on. There's already a lot of flexibility. And the question then is, what do you think? Will people going forward find an easier way to continue, maybe as a solopreneur or as a freelancer after retirement, if they so desire?
Look, I think we are a good example of
Mm.
that. We didn't retire, but circumstances are different. And I have seen many people, many employees that were expats that are given the opportunity to early retirement and they take it. They're like, why not? And so, like you said, some of them have passions, some of them have things that they've wanted to do, although the expectations are different, right? You imagine you're going to go on a boat for a ride around the world, and it turns out that it's not that easy, to be living on a boat 24/7, and or your life is not the same. You feel that you need to do more. You need to think. There's a lot of people, I don't know you, but I think we're thinkers, Claudia. And as thinkers, we sit down and we need to do things. We need to write things down, and we're thinking about how to improve things, right? We're creators. That's why we're here. And people, how many people are not that way? And so I believe that, yes, I believe that people are going to find other options, which is what I've seen, that they become consultants. right? And let me tell you that being a consultant is quite profitable. And so, you do what you do that you want to do. You do you, boo. That's the whole concept here. You do what makes you happy. And if working is still what you need to do, then do it. Let's not forget what France did. I know that it, for a lot of people, is one of the most terrible things to have their retirement age increased, right? There was this lady that day, that morning, she was going to retire. And that day, the president announces, we have increased the retirement age. So you can imagine how it felt. But I wonder if he did it with that purpose in mind. I want to believe that it was with that purpose in mind to say, we can still do more, we can still give more, right?
Right. And I think that there's a lot of cultural and societal stuff that goes back in the background. Obviously, we are all living in this environment, imbued with cultural and societal context. So what we think and how we see our own self context is often very flavored by what goes out in society. And so societal change is obviously much harder to bring across, and we cannot always fathom what politicians are going to say. But because it is true that you know companies are reluctant to hire people that are over 50. Some companies actually, in some roundabout way, get rid of people over a certain age. They get restructured or let go or downsized
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Restructured or downsized. And so, but it is a true fact. It is really ridiculous that this is the case. And
Mhm.
the I think that also, if a company or a society continuously sets this message that, oh, we're not dealing with men or women that going through hormonal change, or we're not dealing with people that might have one too many sick days a year or something like
Mhm.
that, and they're getting rid of those people, what message does that send to an aging population that
Mhm.
it is not okay? It is not okay, and you are less than, and so on. And unfortunately, when companies look at those metrics, they're ignoring the metrics of the quality of leadership, the quality of and the depth of experience that those same people can bring to a company, the cognitive diversity that they can bring to a company because of a different generation and a life of plethora of experiences and connections made. So I really think that as a society, we even have to be mindful of how we look at an aging population and the contribution that they can make.
Mhm.
I absolutely
Exactly.
believe so. Yeah.
Exactly. I think as Generation X, trying to be modern, um, Generation X, we learned the tough way. We we were improvisers. We are inventors. We are thinkers. We are um, resilient, right? And we are a generation of people, like speaking about diversity, that had the opportunity to live a really great era. And I think one of them was to maybe not be so autonomous than the generation Z and millennials, but we had a thought about community, about working as a community, which has in a way transcended right now to the new generations. And I'm wondering if, I wonder what is the importance of generations. I wonder if we somehow are being pushed to the side, like you were saying, because of our age. But then at the same time, you hear people that say that value our knowledge, our skills, our abilities, and so on and so on. And then there's the age shaming, the aging. Remember, there used to be kind of, it used to be a little bit a thing for probably what, last year or something like that. But I think that those people, that generation, is you and me. We are the entrepreneurs. We are the people that people want to learn from. And I think that's fantastic. So we've chosen this route because we know that we have so much to offer still, that we can go on for a long, long time. What was her name that I told you that you said, oh, I'm so worried that in 10 years I'm going to be such and such age. And I told you, don't even worry about it, because there's this coach, I can't remember her name, that is like 70 something years old. And you did not believe me until you looked her up and
I
you're like,
did
oh my
not
God.
believe, I did not believe that this particular female coach was in her 70s. I didn't
Yes,
believe it, but she was.
yes,
We looked it up. And
yes.
yeah, but you see, for instance, imagine you're a technology company and you do, software as a service type things and stuff like that. And you have all these really phenomenal young people in your tech team. Right? I would go so far and to say to have somebody in your team who is in their 50s, who remembers a world without the internet and who has lived in a world without a cell phone can actually add value
With
because
a map in hand.
we had to learn how to use these things. Okay, it
Yes.
wasn't put in our cradle. We didn't grow up
Mm-hmm.
with the tablet as a babysitter.
Yeah.
um, we had to learn it. And so, and guess what? For millennia, people didn't have that. It's not the normal state of being for a human person. So, these young tech wizards, for them, tech is like breathing. They know it, but there's still a lot of people on this planet for whom that is not the case. And they're
Yep.
also the clients. They're
Yep.
also the clients. They're also the ones that are going to get your marketing messages. They're also the ones that are going to become part of your community and people you have to support. So I really do think that uh, you cannot just say you are not valuable because you didn't grow up with tech.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Not having had tech and having to learn tech and still get as good at tech as you are now is also something very, very valuable that you
Exactly.
will not be able to ever learn because you will never actually be able to learn how it is to be without everyday tech. They will
Exactly.
never
We are
have this,
adaptable.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You will
Mm-hmm.
not have that opportunity ever on this planet to go back
Mm-hmm.
and learn how it is to be without.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Except if you have like a deconnected, weekend team building thing, and then you will see people having withdrawal symptoms because they
Ah,
can't
yes.
phone every half
Exactly.
hour. Right, right. So, and granted, I would be tough without tech either, and we wouldn't even be able to have this conversation today, ever, because
Exactly.
we have never met in real life, Sandra and I. We are just absolute, internet connections. So it's all great, and we appreciate this capability every single day. So let's get back to our topic in terms of resilience and dealing with age and declining abilities. I think that how we frame our abilities and our age in our own mind is really where it starts. We talked about this, right? What does it mean for us? What does it mean in terms of how we live our values? And there we come again to Coaching 101. Know what your values are, know what is important to you in your life, know what is what the top ones are, and how are you going to live them. And in your 50s, 60s, 70s, you might live your things very differently than when you were let's say part of the working world. Let's take an
Mhm.
example. Imagine one of the values that's really important to you is generosity. And
Mhm.
maybe the way that you lived this generosity in your working life was by donating money. Maybe
Mhm.
you sponsored kids. Maybe you gave money to charitable or cultural organizations and so on. That was your way of showing and living your generosity.
Right.
Now, maybe in your 60s and 70s, your generosity is by going out and doing outreach, doing pro bono work. Uh,
Mhm.
it might not necessarily be the same way with the same monetary amounts. If you can, of course, continue doing that, but you might have added to that even. And I think that the fact that generosity for you and being a generous person to others is part of the fabric of who you are has not changed. The fundamental value has not changed. Just the way on how you execute it and live it, and how you tie it into your everyday life has changed. And there's no right or wrong here. So I think that being again clear that change is coming. You today and you at a later age even is not going to be the same. Knowing more about yourself and your values, your ideas, your beliefs, the things that you like, the things that you don't like, your assumptions, responsibilities, and all that good stuff that we deal with as coaches all the time.
Yep.
Really, the more clarity you have on that, the more you can translate what it means for you as your feet hit the ground in the morning. Um, as you go through these transitions, the more prepared you're going to be, the more resilient you're going to be, because nothing in this should come as a surprise, right? I
Right.
mean, we're going to get all older people. Here is the truth,
Mhm.
it's like we are getting older and we are going to change, and so we have to deal with it.
Right.
And I think it's just going to be different. It's not going to be better or worse. It's going to be different, and it's going to be
Right.
different for everybody. So I think that giving thought to that, and becoming really clear and settled in what it means for you, and then staying adaptable, of course, staying resilient. Maybe the best laid plans will not work out the way that you think. Your health might throw you a curveball or two, or financially things might not work out exactly the way that you had planned, but just having a little bit resilience as it comes to those things, and nevertheless stay true to your core self, I think is very important. And let's before I have been talking too long, I give you the word in a second. But let's just mention here that coaching does help. Okay,
Mhm.
coaching
Mhm.
does help, and even if I have dealt with leaders that were, at the end of their careers, they were very, very strong in their leadership. They still were, and this gives you a sign, they still wanted to learn, they still wanted to expand, and so on. And we have talked at depth about, how can they transfer this leadership skills into their retirement? How will they, see themselves and as people and as leaders,
right?
as they transition out of that. And I have the great privilege of still talking to some people that now are not in the working world anymore. And it's, you know, coaching can help. So if this is something that any of our viewers is struggling with, they can definitely reach out.
I think one of the benefits of when people are reaching the end of their careers is that they become humble. It just humbles you because you are now entering into a different stage in your life. You are realizing, that somebody's telling you, you know, because of your age, it's kind of hard. You're becoming a little bit stubborn, and they don't tell you these things, but that's really, as a former HR person, that was one of the reasons that we would not hire after a certain age, unless your skills were really good. Let me just make a parenthesis here. I am global mobility. I am not HR. Oh, goodness. And that meant that we would hire people that we would call seasonal. Okay. These were people that were entering their retirement age, but they were promised a position in a very good place where they would increase their retirement money and how much they could afford into Social Security and all this kind of stuff, meaning that the pension plan was going to be quite juicy. Okay. This happens in good companies where people are well taken care of. So people start getting prepared. Unfortunately, like Claudia was saying, they know that they're going to eventually end their assignment, and now it's time to face the music. So what do you do? And a coach is one of the best ways, because we teach you what is the next step in your life. There's a book that is called On F Yourself, okay, which means something that Claudia was saying earlier, which is we are taught and conditioned to believe that we are no longer good after a certain age, or because we're fired, or because we're let go, or something changes in your life that makes you feel less important or less productive, right? That's why bouncing back is not a true thing. So that book tells you how to change your perspective about things, and it's almost a plan on how to do things, of how to coach people to believing that there's more after. I'm going to give an example. I'm not going to say who or what the person is, but I'm just going to say it's a person that was 60 something and then 70 something. And this person was afraid of aging because, well, they were very good looking in their prime. They were very, very good looking. And when your value is placed on how you look, or what you think, or what you can do, and then somebody hits you in the face telling you, well, guess what? In your case, because your value is on your looks, you're going to age. Sorry, you're going to age. And then somebody that relies on their intelligence suddenly gets hit with, I don't know, some kind of, Alzheimer's, or no, what is I'm sorry, no, sorry, I take that back. What is the condition that starts making people forget others?
You forget in Alzheimer's, it's a symptom, but I mean, I think even dementia and things like
Dementia. Thank you.
that.
Dementia.
But people, okay, take it from me. I'm a little older than Sandra here.
Okay.
Um, just forgetting people and forgetting stuff, has not those nothing to do with dementia or Alzheimer's. Sometimes it's just a sign of
Exactly.
the times, okay?
Exactly.
Happens
Exactly.
more and more. And
Yeah. We're
I
all
got,
forgetful.
yeah, I got hit pretty bad also with menopause brain, and women that have gone through it know exactly what it is. It's like you're
Hmm.
in the fog, and sometimes you just lose your train of thought, and it can be
Oh, yeah.
pretty crazy. But it the yeah, so it happens, people. Okay, you
Okay. Okay. Bravo.
it just happens, and so
Yes.
it doesn't need to be like any major dementia or things like that.
Yes. Right, right. So it's just, one of the examples is just that, right? That uh, you forget things and you go through life through things. So if your value is placed on what you know, well, life is so ironic that you might get hit with dementia, right? So the point here is you should not place your value into your looks, into your intelligence, into all of these things. What matters is what you are passionate about, what you can do, what you like to do. There is eventually a time when you're going to need to retire,
Right,
right? We need to enjoy life. We need to enjoy the fruits of what we have uh, uh, done throughout an entire lifetime, right? And so if these people that I'm telling you about would have discussed with a coach about life and prepared them to move on and do other things other than to just rely on their looks, they would have been ready for aging. They would have appreciated, because they had so many opportunities that they missed them because they were too consumed with how they were aging, and they just never enjoyed their grandchildren. They never enjoyed life, right? So, well, that's one example, and there's many, many, many,
because
many more.
yeah, I mean there was uh, there's people that after a certain, I know of a woman that after a certain age, she just wore those roll the
Oh,
uh,
turtlenecks.
turtlenecks, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Turtlenecks, because she was so concerned about people seeing her neck
Mm-hmm.
that had become more wrinkly, right? And
Mm-hmm.
she was suffering for it in the summer, because even in the summer, she would, even if it was not a turtleneck sweater, she would wear some kind of a scarf or something like
Oh.
that. And who are
Mm.
we fooling, really? Who are we fooling? And
Mm-hmm.
so it is, I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. I have to turn it.
Yeah.
um and so it's really, if you let go of certain things, it opens up space for other stuff, and it doesn't make you ugly from one day or another. It's just a beauty also is age appropriate. The
Mm-hmm.
beauty of 20, you can be a fantastically beautiful woman at 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, but you're going
Right.
to be beautiful as compared to other people that are 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, right? And you can, and we have this beautiful wave of now older people becoming influencers on social media, and they show
Yes.
that age is just a number, and they do go out and show their value and their zest for life and their beauty, frankly. Okay. um and so it's just to maybe challenge a little bit. Nobody is going to tell these people to not have beauty as one of their values, if that is one of their values. If your coach
Mm-hmm.
does that to you, then you know beware. But given that beauty is important to you, what does beauty mean? Are there other
Mm-hmm.
ways to think about beauty? Are there other
Mm-hmm.
ways that you can live it? How can you make this part of your life without being so frustrated and unsatisfied and driving yourself crazy? I think that that is a large part of what it means to look at the livability and the reality of your values. You
Right.
had mentioned before also about intelligence. I think my take in terms of intelligence is different because here too, I would absolutely accept that people have intelligence and this cognitive contribution as their main thing, but maybe it takes a different form. There, as
Exactly.
maybe they were, the prime think on your feet negotiator or debater in their
Mm-hmm.
prime. And now maybe they have a little bit more trouble doing that. But what does that mean? That doesn't mean that their
That's it.
experience and just because they can't necessarily maybe do that at the level that they used to do it before doesn't mean that they cannot be an intelligent cognitive contributing person and teach others, write books, do different types of things where they can still excel and leverage their years of experience and
Right.
their lifetime of learning in order to stand and be the master that they are at their craft. So
Right.
I think that there again, we see that it's not that we want to change the person. It's more that as coaches, we might desire to enable people to become their best selves
Mm-hmm.
in the moment given their current circumstances, which have changed because of age, because of certain declining abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can go there, you can live it, you can still be who you are, maybe even more so if certain responsibilities of the job fall away, as we said before.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it is just, you know, this reframing, this finding the right perspective, the right way of thinking about it, because
Right.
ultimately your experience is governed by this box about yourself that you construct in your head. And if you change what you look at, if you change how you perceive certain things, how you believe about certain things, your life can change together
Right.
with the
Right.
changes that are imposed by your biology or by society. And the beautiful thing is, and something that mesmerizes every time I experience it as a coach, beliefs change in an instant. A change
Mm.
of perspective is a decision in an instant. An aha moment you get for yourself changes you in an instant. So
Mm-hmm.
it is something that can absolutely happen and happen very quickly. So,
Right, right. Let me, I would like to, for me, finish. I don't know if you would like to add something after me. But for me, what I like about age is, I was telling you earlier, is that we kind of lose filters. We we are now in a position where we've lived enough, we've experienced enough, and we know what we're talking about most of the times. Right? And so you
bold
are now
statement, bold
in
statement.
bold statement, exactly, most of the times, that's why I said. And so you're able to be more frank and honest about the things that you live, and therefore you're more capable of telling people, look, this is how it is, and whether you like it or not, that's really how to what it comes down to, because people come to you as a person with more experience, aka age, because they know what that you've gone through more things than they have. And so now it's a time to say, okay, look, I'm not going to bubble wrap this so that it doesn't hurt, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is how it is, and this is what it is. And I think that's more than fair and right to do. And I enjoy that. But the reason why I still do have filters is because I became a coach. And so I don't give advice. I don't do that. But people that do like to give advice because their grandchildren come to them or people come to them and so on and so on. Yeah, that's fantastic. They lose the filters. And you have, I don't know if you've heard, I'm pretty sure, the Red Hat Society and the Purple Hat Society. These are women of older age that go on trips and enjoy their life, and they just laugh and do things, dance and get together and play bingo and do all of these things, because we are, at the end of the day, we are a society, and we need others to survive. And so you find ways to become or be productive. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Fantastic, very nice to way of closing up. I do tend to give advice if I do not wear my coaching hat, right?
Yes.
I think that yes, absolutely. As coaches, we do not give advice, and we have kind of a coaching attitude as we deal with other people. But we are not a coach 24/7. And you
Yeah.
know, if a friend comes to me and asks for advice, I might first coach her into figuring out her own perspective, but you know, I might very well share my opinion. Why not?
Exactly. It's different. Correct.
It's different. It's different. But this was great. I think we touched on some interesting points here. Thank you so much. Despite the small little slip ups on both sides, which just were absolutely proving the point, I think that this
Yes.
a fun episode. So everybody, thank you so much for
Thank
listening.
you.
If you have any insights to share, maybe you agree, you don't agree, or you have some anecdote that might elucidate a point, please get in touch with us. Leave a comment below, or get in touch with us on social media. Our contact information is in the description attached to this video. Also, we will be back with much more, of course, but in the meantime, if you loved what you hear, please subscribe to the channel and otherwise engage with our content. If you hit that little notification bell on YouTube, you will know when the next thing comes. Okay, thank you so much. This was great, and see you again very soon. Take care.
Bye, Claudia. Take care, everybody. Bye bye. Feel better.